Hey designer, last year I made a review of the Google UX course and made a video about every single one of the 7 segments that they did. You can find those videos in the description below. But now we're a year later, so what changed? Did you know that over 300,000 people signed up for the Google course since it launched?
And if this doesn't bother them, then I'm out of ideas.
That's a lot of competition, but luckily not that many people actually finished it, so if you're among those, congrats, because that's a lot of work and you did it. You're awesome. But what now? Should you print that certificate, frame it, put it on your wall and simply wait for the recruiters and clients to show up? Sorry, but no. Here is what you should do in 5 easy steps. Number 1, don't sit back. Many people think that the fact that they got the certificate and it's by Google, one of the biggest companies in the world, that means that basically they're fine. They can just sit back, relax, and companies will be basically just jumping at every opportunity to hire them. And yeah, it doesn't work like that. You got the basics in, and now you need to focus on polishing those skills, so you need to put in even more time than you actually did into the course itself. Read some industry articles on Medium and explore some case studies just to even find out what other companies do in a different way than the Google way that they taught you in the course. Because the way that they teach the course is their way, and it's not always the way that all of the industry actually does things. Number 2, work on your portfolio, because the certificate itself is pretty worthless. Your chances of getting a job with just the certificate and just the projects from the course are pretty slim. Why? Well, most people who finish the course don't do anything above that, so they only end up with 2 or 3 case studies from the course. So if you have 5 or more, then you instantly stand out in the eyes of the recruiters, and you stand out as somebody who's hardworking, who's motivated, and yes, this is generally who people want to hire.
Wow!
And if you want some help with building your case studies, I made a really nice mini course on just that. Number 3, design. Now that might sound pretty obvious, but to many people it's not. If you're planning to be a generalist or a designer and not strictly a researcher, then you should design, and you should design daily. You should do tutorials, you should practice your craft, and you should really focus on UI design. Because sadly, this is the Google's course biggest issue. They teach UI based on material design and some principles from their own way of doing things, but Google is not really that great at UIs. As I really liked most of the Google course, don't get me started on the UI part. This is actually the reason I made my own UI courses, because I really wanted people to learn the best possible way and to learn to make good UIs and not to make recycled material design ugly stuff. But even my courses aside, I have a couple of playlists that I linked in the description of this video that you can actually use for free, and you can go through them, do the tutorials, and learn some UI principles along the way. Why should you focus on UI? Well, that's easy. Pretty UI sells, and people buy with their eyes. You know those 2 things that we have here? People buying with their eyes means that first impressions count. And of course your case study is important, your research processes, your entire UX flow of everything that you've done to create that case study. Yes, this is all important. But if you don't have a nice cover or a nice end result of what you did, most people are not gonna be motivated enough to even read your great case study. So designers, work on UI. Number 4, stand out. This is something that I want to cover in more depth in another video, but I'm gonna give you a couple of pointers here right now. What a lot of people do with their portfolios is they do mobile apps, because the canvas is small, it's pretty easy to design, and they end up with having 3 or 4 mobile apps in their portfolio. This is a sure-free way to not stand out, so don't do it this way. Have at least one app, one website, and one something that is completely different. You don't have to go totally crazy. You can design a smartwatch app or a browser extension, something that is not a mobile app or a website, because that will show that you're curious, that you really want to explore this whole design thing, that you don't want to make app dribble shots, because this is what a lot of people do nowadays.
You know, not what this is about.
The other thing that people don't really do that often is focusing on themselves first. So like a huge title saying, hey, I'm a designer, or I'm an aspiring designer, and then the project. Well, People don't really like to scroll and they're not really that interested in you per se. They're interested in what you can do. So always start your portfolio with your projects, and it has to be a beautiful showcase of as many things that you do as possible visible on one screen. And then of course at the bottom of it all you can write a little bio about yourself and try to be creative and interesting. Try not to write it too long because, well, people don't really like to read too long. And always add a photo, because human nature is that way. We really crave that human connection. We want to see a face behind the work. And number 5, network. I made a whole video about networking and why it's important to your design career and to getting a job, and I'm gonna link it in the description as always. But short story is, you need to create a Twitter account, you need to create a LinkedIn profile, and possibly a Dribble account and a Behance page. And having those elements, make sure they're all consistent, so the photo of you as the profile picture is the same, the descriptions are the same, the link to your portfolio is on each and every one of them, and then participate in the community. Many people start on LinkedIn because, well, they say it's a professional network and you can actually find jobs there. I'm not too sure about that, but it is a good place to start because many recruiters use it to verify your skills and your past work experience. But if you just add your account there, sit back and do nothing, then, well, nothing will happen. So you need to participate. You need to participate in the community, and you need to participate with other designers on your level. I talk about this more in the dedicated video. So find some groups there and become active. One that I can recommend you to start is just called UX Design, and it's done by my friends from the UX Collective. It's a really great place for a lot of information, for sharing your projects and getting feedback. One thing to remember and one thing to always start with, give feedback first. For a couple of days or weeks, don't post any of your work, but give feedback to others. Because if you start with your own stuff, people are gonna think that you're needy and that you're basically all about yourself. You need to show that you're about your users, and your users here are gonna be your future friends from the design industry. If your goal is to get a job in the design industry, and you just finished the Google UX course or any other course, congrats, you're on your way there, because not many people actually finish these things. But it's just the beginning of your journey. You now need to work even harder and you need to be more motivated and dedicated. But you know what? I know that you have it in you, because as I said, not many people finish these courses. They are tough and they are time consuming, so if you've made it this far, stopping now and sitting back and waiting forever is not gonna be a good idea. Just keep going, I believe in you. If you want to improve and level up, I wrote 2 books about design, one about UI and one about UX, and I made a couple of affordable courses that have helped thousands of designers level up and get the job they wanted. So check them out, subscribe, drink some water, and as always, have a beautiful day.